The Sarasota Dolphin Research Program is the world's longest-running wild dolphin research program. It was begun in 1970 here at Mote Marine Laboratory to try to learn something about what bottlenose dolphins do in the wild. We now have a multidisciplinary program that brings in scientists from all over the world to work with people based here at Mote Lab to study the biology, the behavior, the ecology, the natural history, the life history, and aspects of the medicine of these animals, things that affect their health, including environmental contaminants. Our program engages in a monthly program of surveys to look at the bottlenose dolphins of Sarasota Bay, to keep tabs on them, to see who's here, where they're spending their time, who they're with, the fates of the calves that are out there. In the course of our December 2006 surveys, our crew found a small bottlenose dolphin trailing something from it. We couldn't tell what it was at the time. Looking at photographs of the dorsal fin of that animal, it was determined that this was a young dolphin that we'd known for the last year and a half. It had distinctive marks on the leading edge of the fin and on the trailing edge of the fin that allowed us to pin down whose calf it was out there, but it was on its own. 5 weeks later was the next time we saw it, in spite of a lot of effort to look for it again, and we were able to determine at that point that it had fishing line wrapped around its flukes and it was cut very deeply into the animal. It was embedded near the tail of the animal. Once we were clear on the fact that this line was not going to come off on its own, we contacted the National Marine Fisheries Service for permission to conduct a rescue capture operation. We then put together a team of 30 people in 5 boats. We found the dolphin down east of Siesta Key and were able to encircle it with a long net, bring it aboard our veterinary examination boat, and there 2 veterinarians determined that there was no way that we could treat this animal adequately in the field. It would have benefited from coming into the hospital where it was probably going to require surgery. We brought it back to Mote Marine Laboratory's Dolphin and Whale Hospital. 2 surgeries were performed on it to remove the line that was cutting all the way down to the bone on the tail of the animal, and the animal went through a very quick recovery.
NOAA's role is the authorizing agency to consult with the leading biologists and veterinarians on staff and expert panels on when the dolphin is ready to be released into the wild.
Philly the dolphin was deemed capable of being released. She had met all the criteria for being able to go back out into the wild. We loaded her onto the same boat that brought her to Mote Marine Laboratory back in January of 2007, and we took her to a site within the range where she'd been sighted late in January 2007. We released her in shallow waters with a small radio transmitter attached to her dorsal fin, and were able to monitor her shortly after release.
Throughout Florida, we historically have a problem with people feeding and harassing wild dolphins. Harassment's mostly been in the form of close human interactions, trying to swim with, reach out, touch them, chase them. More recently, in the past year, we've had an unprecedented number of dolphins stranding with recreational gear attached. We've had several in the Sarasota Bay area and then also some in the East Coast in Indian River Lagoon.
The last thing in the world we want is for this animal to have any more human interaction. She's already had far too many in her short year and a half of life. We're going to be monitoring her. As long as she continues to do well, she'll stay out there in the wild. If there are problems with her thriving back out in the wild, then we might have to consider intervention.
The public can help us avoid harmful interactions with wild dolphins and prevent the harm by following some simple best fishing practices. We have about a dozen of them that we've worked with partners to develop, but most importantly, never feed a wild dolphin and try to avoid unintentional feeding by dumping leftover bait in the area when dolphins are nearby. Try to stay that 50-yard distance in your vessel to avoid any potential harassment. And if you're fishing in an area with a dolphin, don't cast your line out towards that dolphin. And also, more importantly, for cases like Philly, where we have extensive monofilament entanglement, try to stow your line at all times and bring it back to recycle.
We lost 2% of our resident population of animals in 2006 alone just to ingesting fishing gear. That's not sustainable. The modeling that we do with colleagues from the Brookfield Zoo, from the Chicago Zoological Society, indicate that that sort of additional loss on top of the normal losses to a population of dolphins can't be sustained, and the population will cease to exist in time.
Violations for civil penalties are up to $10,000. Criminal penalties are up to $20,000 and a year in jail.
Well, we hope that people continue to enjoy the wonderful waters we have around here, but we also hope that they respect the waters as the home for these dolphins. These dolphins have been here for at least 5 generations that we know of, and probably a long time before that. They don't have any choice about where they live. We have choices about where we can recreate or how we deal with the environment.